Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a Leather Element, drop it in the comment box below. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So how about a shop tricks? Let's see if there's something in here that can help us out in our shop. In fact, our first stop, an easy answer to a very irritating situation. I use my groover on almost every edge, and one of the most irritating things for me is when the cutting hole gets a plug in that and it won't groove. Easy fix here. So first off, let's take a lighter and just briefly, let's just hit that cutting head. Just briefly, okay? Now let's take a sewing needle. This is not a hand sewing needle, this is a sewing needle for fabric. Now, if we think about it, on our groover, we draw towards us. So we need to push from the smaller hole. So let's put that needle in, and there we go. That pops right out. That needle's small enough to go through that hole. In fact, a safety pin is going to work just as well. Now, a good point with the lighter, on our hand sewing needles, these are notorious for getting clogged up with wax, and we can't get our thread through there. Again, our lighter, let's just hit that briefly. Good, that's all we need. Now with a rag, let's just wipe that off, and that needle is clean and ready to go. Now when we jump over to our round hole punches, these again are notorious for getting stopped up. So for our smaller punches, I'm going to take our smaller awl, and from this end I can push through. Now that doesn't always help. In fact, with our holster leather, I love this leather. It's a pre-dyed veg tan, but it has a habit of burnishing when we hit this with a round hole or when we punch that. So let's be careful here. But I'm going to put my awl on my table, and let's just hit that a few times with our mallet. There we go. Now I can start to draw those little plugs out. In fact, we can clean that out very easily. If we jump over to a larger round hole, we're going to do the same thing, but let's go with our larger awl. And there we go. Perfect. We can start to clean those plugs out, and in all honesty, we can have these absolutely empty in no time at all. Yep, there we go. Easy fix to 3 absolutely irritating problems. We are probably all in the same boat on this one. I can't imagine how much time and money I've wasted over the years ordering the wrong products. We place our order, we pay for it, we wait for it to get here, we open that box, totally wrong. That wastes time, money, and it's very frustrating. Now with us leather crafters, we have some defense here because we're dealing with width, length, color, size, finish, gauge, and on top of all of that, SKU numbers. So what I've started doing, whenever I get an order in, I'm just going to cut that tag off and it goes right in the bin with whatever it's attached to. Next time I need 1.5 inch antique nickel O's, I know exactly what I'm getting. Now on leather, same situation. So when I get a piece of leather in, somewhere on my hide, I'm going to write in what that is. What it is, the SKU number, and the color. Now I will say this, it's not a perfect situation, but that can be remedied if we pay attention. This is a critical tip, and I've always got to remind myself of this. We want to cut away from our work. Great example. So right here I've got a panel marked in, ready to cut. So my first thought, let's just lay our square in and make a cut. Easy enough. Until we make a mistake. If we veer off of our square or just make a bad cut altogether, now that panel is wasted. If we've got some tooling or stamping in this, we've got to start over. So let's do this. Let's lay our square on our work. There we go. So now I can cut. If I make a bad cut, veer off, I simply cut again. I've not wasted a panel. But also, we need to think about this a little bit. So right here, easy enough to cut out, and right down there. But on this end, I'm just not going to hold my square down and try to cut across my hand. It's not comfortable, and I'm going to get a bad cut. So let's just do this. Let's come out a little bit, make a freehand cut. Then we can flip this panel around, and we can cut outside of our work. We're wasting a little bit of leather, but that saves us all kinds of headaches. Here's a question we get regularly. Can we trim down our double cap rivets? I've never been successful at that. But we do have an alternative, and actually one where we can get very creative. Okay, let's back up. So with our double cap rivets, and these are my favorite rivets, almost don't use anything else. We've got 3 sizes of these and some beautiful finishes. These will match just about any hardware. Our smallest, this is a 3/16, that's good for 2 4-5s back to back. Our medium, 5/16, that's good for 2 8-9s back to back. And our largest, 7/16, that's good for 3 8-9s back to back, okay? When we're setting these, I've got 2 8-9s right there. There's our medium rivet. Notice how little post I have sticking above my leather. That's what we're looking for. When we set that, it's going to be a clean, straight set. Here's our problem. If I'm going to use a medium on 1 ply, notice how much post we have there. I've set 100,000 rivets, and I'm never going to pull that off. When we set this, it's going to offset. Cap's going one way, post is going the other. It's going to make a mess. We're going to have to try to get that rivet out, and in the process, we're going to trash the leather around that hole. Not going to be very durable or a good set, okay? So how about we add some donuts into this? Now, as a side note here, I punch these with a round punch, 1/2-inch round punch. If we don't have one of those, we can always cut small squares, clip the corners. We could always do a diamond. We could always go with a basic square. A couple of ways we can go with that, but here's where we're going with this. All right, so I've got our 4 to 5 ounce water buffalo. Love this leather, but we're going to go with smalls. There we are. Okay, that's just right. We've got very little post above the top of our leather. All right, but let's do this. Say this is going to have some stress on it. Well, I'm not comfortable with that smaller cap on both sides. So let's bump this up to a medium. Way too much post above that. That's going to be a mess when we set that, okay? So how about we just add 2 small donuts to this? Same leather I'm using here. Let's come through from the back. Yeah, there we are. We're getting a better height above our leather. But right here, if I see that on the back of a project, my first thought is somebody went to the trouble to do this right. Okay, say we still have a little too much post there. Well, let's go with a leather that's a little bit thicker. We're going up to a 5 to 6 ounce. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. And again, on our back, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, well, let's reverse that. Let's say we're going with our 2 mediums. Let's drop on our billet. And now how about we go, say we've got a different color leather that we're working into our project, or something as simple as a small stitch line. We can always go with an additional leather on top of that. We drop in our caps. And I'm not going to click those down because I'll never get them back out. So one of the great things about a double cap, we can snap these together before we set them, but it's a little hard to get those back out. But anyway, so right there, actually we're bringing in a second color on that. And this is cool too. We could always do something like a simple strap between the two. Say we've got a black stitch line. That's really going to tie in well. And actually, that's going to look pretty good. There we go. Well, I'm going to clip those down anyway. Well, a very creative way to go. Now, when we jump over to a billet, this is actually very easy because right here, we could go with it on the back, which actually looks pretty good. We could bury it between our 2 pieces of leather, or again, we can simply go with a donut right on top. The same color, different color. So many ways we can go. But this is so indicative of leathercraft. We found an answer to a problem. Well, let's take that answer and get creative with it. I hope these shop tricks are a big help to us. Even those of us with a little more experience, I hope there's something in here that's going to help us out in our shop, because that's a big part of it. If we enjoy the time in our shop, our projects are going to reflect that. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.